Chris Taylor wants to know, in combating social justice warriors, which do you feel is more important, developing rebuttals to individual complaints about Western civilization or ignoring the attempt to bog us down with endless little fights and simply telling fun, pro-liberty, pro-free market, and pro-individual stories to young people? I'm going to object to the confines of that question. It's a great question, Chris. I'm going to object to the confines because I don't think it has to be either you give them stacks of facts or you make it Captain Simple Science for them. There's only one way to convince these people that they're wrong, and they're terribly wrong. And the only way to do that is to get them to think about it. And you can't get them to think about it unless you do one thing, which is what I've realized over the last several years is the one thing needs to happen. I'm getting good at it. The only way that you can convince social justice warriors to take a look at their lives and begin to think about changing themselves is you have to show them that their own behavior is capitalist. You have to show them that every single day, faced with a socialist choice or a capitalist choice, they take the capitalist choice every single time. You have to confront them with this and see. If I say capitalism's swell, they say, "Well, what are you? You're some privileged white male. Of course, you think capitalism is good. It's designed for you. It's not designed for me. It's designed for people. It's designed for individuals. You can go as far or as close as you want to. You run as fast or as slow as you want to. That's the beauty of it. But put that aside for a second. Let me just pick this up. So you have to put them in a box. Now, for those of you out there who are Star Trek fans, and I'm one of them, you're probably a big mystery to you now by now. I think it's 7,000 Star Trek things here in this studio. But for those of you who are Star Trek fans, I want to say it was Mudd's Women. I think it was Mudd's Women, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't remember the name of the episode. I could have told you everything about it 25, 30 years ago. I put more useful things in my head. But there's an episode where these androids are, there are hundreds of them. Star Trek hired a bunch of twins for this, which was really kind of cool. So they make the Betty model and the John model and all the rest. And they're manufactured. They're androids, and they're relatively simple androids, because they didn't want to put intelligence into all of them. So they can do just the basic things of walking around and serving, coffee, space coffee, Romulan coffee, and all the rest of it. But when they got into trouble, when they got into some kind of an intellectual trouble on the Star Trek show, they would just freeze up, and their little necklace, which had their number on them, so you could tell they were different. Here's number 63. Oh, look, here comes number 223. Can't be the same one because they're wearing a different necklace. These necklaces would start to flash. And there was one android who was the head android. He was also an artificial person, but he was given a lot more resources, and his name was Norman. And when these lower-level androids hit a logical problem that they could not... Mud. Thank you. I knew I was in the right place. Mud. When these simpler androids could not get out of a logical trap, they would just freeze up, and their lights would start to flash, and they would say, Norman, coordinate. Norman, coordinate. So they're basically bumping the question upstairs. I don't know how to answer this, so Norman, coordinate. And of course, you can set up a logical traps that presumably computers can't get out of. They couldn't get out of them in the 1960s anyway. So this is what you have to do, basically. Chris, you have to get them to the Norman coordinate point, and the way you get them into this, and at the end of that episode, actual genuine smoke comes out of their ears. It's absolutely awesome. You have to get them into a place where smoke is coming out of their ears, and the smoke is coming out of their ears because their gears are spinning so fast they cannot put these two things together. This cognitive dissonance is so strong that they simply shut down. They can't get out of it. They're trapped. And this is what you have to do. So I'm not going to belabor this because I've said this story 100,000 times, and I'll probably say another 100,000 times. But in a nutshell, if they tell you that they're all about social justice and socialism, and you ask them to take their cell phones down to a pawn shop, distribute the money to poor people, they won't do it. And the reason they won't do it is because it's their phone. And you've got them. You're all about taking other people's wealth distributed to you, but what about people who are not as well off as you are? Why don't you live up to your own morality, which is far superior to my capitalist morality? You're a socialist, for God's sakes. So why don't you do the socialist thing? Take all of these toys that you have, that capitalism made, that you got through a capitalist society, take these toys and sell them and hand the money to poor people so that they can eat. Let's go. They won't do it. But if you hit them with that, it will eat at their little minds late in the night. You know, they'll stuff it and they'll say, "Well, I'm doing social work and I'm raising awareness and all the rest of this nonsense." Raising awareness is a kind of job I'd like to have. Kind of job I do have, actually. So they're stuck. Norm and coordinate. Yeah, you say you're a socialist, but you're not behaving like one. You're behaving like a capitalist. You're behaving like somebody who not only understands and likes private property, but is pretty protective of their private property. How do you explain this? And they're done. They're stuck. I told you about this other example too, which I thought was a very good one. People say, "Well, capitalism. How can you justify a man having 5 houses? It's disgusting." There are people who have no homes at all. How can you say somebody should be allowed to have 5 houses? How many phones? How many songs do you have on your iPhone, pal? Mr. Hipster, Mr. Social Justice Warrior. How many songs do you have on your personal device? 800, 1,000, maybe. Every one of them's $1, right? Round numbers. Some are a little less. $1.29. Let's just say it's $1. So you spend $1,000 on music. Can you listen to all 1,000 songs at the same time? No. Do you really need 1,000 songs? No. Could you get by on 10 songs and give $990 to poor people? Why not? What comes a point when you've had enough music, don't you think? Comes a point when you've taken more than your fair share of music, don't you think? I'm kind of disgusted by even looking at you. I don't want to be seen in the same room as you. Then they're done. They're done. They can't get out of it because they behave like capitalists. And that's because capitalism is a moral and ethical thing to do. And that's how you get them, Chris. You put them into the Norman coordinate modes, the smoke comes out of their ears, and then they have to, some of them will be able to stuff it, but most of them will lie awake at night every now and then, and it will start to eat at them. And if you do it enough, you'll wake up those that can be woken up. Let's see, what time is it? I'll do another couple more, I think, maybe, and then I'll get back to doing the other work that I have to do here at BillWhittle.com, which is critically important at all times.